I wonder what would happen if you were the kind of person that you would want to have in your life. This is a really difficult question to consider because we'd all like to think that we are exactly the person we should be. But are we? And is this even the same thing as being the person you'd want to have in your life? Who are the people that you like to be around? What do you like about them? What expectations do they meet? I know that I love to be around people who are fun, graceful, and confident. I expect and hope that the people in my life will be kind, patient, caring, and supportive. It would be just lovely if the people in my house, in my life, were always grateful and helpful. That's the easy part. This is where it gets harder. Are you that person to others? Are you that person to yourself? Treat others the way that you would want to be treated. The golden rule, the most basic of concepts in theory. So why is it so hard for us in practice? In the last episode, when we talked about stress, we said that we often save our worst behavior for those we are closest to. Because of a concept we said was non-volition, we feel safe and comfortable, like we can be the worst version of ourselves, and they're trapped, stuck with us. They can't get out. What if we brought that person we would want in our lives into theirs? When I complain about work, I want my husband to listen and to hear me, to pay attention to what I'm saying, and to support me, to always be on my side. But do I do that when he wants to complain about work? When I make a mistake, do I want someone telling me, well, I told you this would happen, or lecturing me, telling me how I should have done it, or how their way was better, or how they knew the answer and I didn't? Of course I don't. So why would my teenager want to hear that? Do I respond well to someone telling me to calm down or that I'm being dramatic? That would be a hard no for me as well. So again, why is it surprising that a teenager doesn't respond well to it? How would your relationships improve if we applied that type of empathy to them? If we saw a situation and decided to be the person we would want around us if we were in that position? Our relationships would take on an entirely different level because most of us have the same fundamental needs. Be the strength you want to see in others, and you'll make them stronger. Bring the kindness and compassion you want in your life to others' lives, and you'll start to feel it too. Be the patience and understanding that you need. Surround others with the joy, gratitude, and happiness that you want around, and it will surround you too. But I know some days that's a lot harder than others. I heard one of my favorite instructors say in an interview that we need to be the superhero version of ourselves on those days. And I loved that idea. I can't imagine that Wonder Woman or Captain Marvel wants to be super every damn day. But sometimes you just gotta put on the gold boots and cape and play the role. Be the kind of person who you want in your life. Can you be that person? Maybe it's your favorite version of you, the version of you that you imagine if you are asked to close your eyes and picture yourself walking throughout your day. Can you be that kind of person for those others in your life? But what about for you? Can you be the kind of person you want in your life, in your very own life, like for you? We all love compliments. There's barely a person you can find who doesn't brighten up even just a little bit when they receive one. Many of us walk taller when a random stranger tells us we look beautiful. Awards make us feel accomplished. Likes and fire emojis from people we haven't talked to IRL in decades make us feel amazing. Why do we need others to bring that type of positive presence to our lives? I wonder what would happen to ourselves and to our lives if we were that person in our own lives, If we told ourselves we look beautiful and didn't need that random on the street to say it, why does her opinion mean more to us than our own? What if we read a report we wrote, or looked at something we painted, or tasted a food we cooked, or a garden we planted, or maybe listened to a podcast we recorded and gave ourselves an award? Why do we need external validation to feel accomplished? Why do we need someone else to tell us, "Atta girl"? Why do we feel so much better about ourselves when some girl from high school puts a fire emoji on our picture when we know she was probably just Facebooking wine drunk? Instead, many of us tend to be our very own troll, picking ourselves apart, questioning our work, criticizing our appearances, and criticizing our capabilities. And usually, just like an online troll, it's typically completely unsubstantiated. Hey guys, it's Jen, and this is Reframing Me. Last week in the Movement is Medicine Just for Me episode, I told you that I have added walks into my daily routine. For me personally, they're much more for overall wellness and mental health, I guess, than they are for fitness. So they're totally chill and in addition to my workouts. I told you that we'd use this as an opportunity to revisit some topics. So for today's conversation, we are talking about one of my favorites, positive parenting. So whether you're out walking or you're driving someone to practice or to a friend's house, or if you're sitting and relaxing, or if you're working, thanks for keeping me company, and I hope you enjoy. Family communication can be studied from 3 different approaches: the communication approach, the psychological approach, and the sociological approach. And as a communication scholar, I am most familiar and comfortable with the communication approach. So that's where we're going to start. And we'll look at those best practices, discussing the communication role in families and how we should be communicating with our kids and with our teens. It's super simple. Unfortunately, like most things, simple doesn't mean easy. And that's where we'll bring the psychological and sociological approaches into our conversation. And then once we've gotten a handle on the communication, we can talk about positive parenting and conscious parenting. Looking at our families from the communication perspective focuses on the process of creating and sharing meaning as family members interact with each other, rather than the other perspectives that only see our family processes as a way of understanding the individual or placing us into a societal context. When we use the communication approach, it believes that we must look at the interactions and processes of the family because they are important in and of themselves. Families are social systems, which means that they include components who we said are the individual family members. And these people are interconnected and are mutually exerting influence on one another. If we all were standing around and we all had, and by all I mean our families, had bungee cords attached to us, if one person pulled, the other felt it, because we are all exerting that mutual influence on one another and we are all interconnected. So within this system, a calm perspective addresses how these individuals then organize their relationships with each other, and then how those relationships affect the functioning of the family. Our primary concern in a communication perspective stays inside the family, the internal processes and change within the family, not the impact of the family onto the individual personalities or the individual personalities of the people impacting the family, because that's more the psychological perspective. And we don't look at the relationship between family characteristics and the larger society, because that's the more sociological perspective. But This isn't to say we don't include the others. We still rely on the psychological and sociological variables to help provide the context in which the communication occurs. Our approach looks at family communication as being complex and ever-changing, a process that is influenced by both the past interactions that we've had as a family and that influences all of the future interactions that we have as a family. So we are constantly generating meaning within our families through every single communication transaction that we have. We involve both the verbal and the nonverbal messages that we're sending to each other. Remember how I said that we don't pretend the psychological and sociological factors don't play a role? Well, in addition to the verbals and the nonverbals, we also include each family member's perceptions, their feelings, their thoughts. So those psychological factors, what they think about the interaction, how they take it, how they feel about it, based on the psychological factors that they have. And then we also include the cultural, historical, and environmental contexts that these communication exchanges are happening in. So the sociological factors. But mainly, we look at the how, the process of communicating. Each person in the interaction is simultaneously influencing the behavior of the other. This makes our family's communication a jointly constructed activity. We are each using the verbal and nonverbal messages to convey a meaning to each other. And the other person is using verbal and nonverbal messages to modify their own message in response. We will then take their response as feedback to our message, and we will send another one, and so on from that. You can see how your message goes to your teen, who then responds accordingly in a way that gives you feedback on your original message. Every message that we send is part of this ongoing sequence, even if it's hours or days or weeks or months apart. We modify what we say based on how we anticipate that they will respond because of their prior responses. And they do the same. But one thing to keep in mind that I have always found especially fascinating and accurate is the concept of punctuation. Punctuation essentially attributes blame. Because one interaction builds off of the others, we see our reaction as a response to theirs. I only backtalked you because you yelled at me. Well, I only yelled at you because you ignored me. I only ignored you because you're always nagging at me. I only nag at you because you disrespect me. I only disrespect you because you, right? We punctuate everything and see it from only our perspective. We ignore the long-running chain of interactions that came before. So, if family communication is to maximize its usefulness, we all need to be mindful of our everyday communication. Families need to consciously scaffold family communication episodes in order to help children to learn positive communication. We need to frame things as like teachable moments rather than simply reacting in anger. We all need to be more mindful of our message choices and their positive potential. We need to think before we speak. Parents should communicate with children in a way that facilitates their potential and avoid communication that holds them back. As parents, we need to create a positive communication climate to encourage their learning, their growth, and teach them that we can forgive mistakes. We can use positive communication with our kids as a way to increase everyone's happiness and support the development of positive character traits. and help our kids navigate possible negative situations that they incur. It is all just so incredibly basic. If it was truly this simple, we would all have super high functioning families. No one would have struggles or drama or conflict. Well, we said it's simple, but it's not easy. And the primary reasons that it's not easy involve those other perspectives. We said that through the calm perspective, our primary concern stays inside the family, which is all of those easy breezy, say it like it is. Parents should do this. Parents should do that. Parents need to create this. However, we still rely on psychological and sociological variables to help provide the context that this communication occurs in. And the context is where things can go really south really fast sometimes. Okay, so the psychological approach to studying family communication focuses on the individuals in the family. It examines the effect of the family on the development of the individual. It looks at personality as an outcome of our family interactions. Or it looks at how an individual's psychological traits cause our family interactions. We might be concerned with things like individual values, beliefs, or attitudes. But it also might include factors like cognitive development or individual abilities, self-esteem, self-monitoring, or aggression, social adjustment levels, cognitive complexity. The individual factors that are either brought into the communication exchange or occur as a result of the communication exchange. Now, the sociological approach to studying family communication, it focuses on the relationship between the characteristics of the family or its members and the wide variety of social or cultural forces. Families embody many of the norms or the values and encourage the roles of their society. Socialization into being responsible and participative members of a society is actually a crucial function of us as parents. But this can kind of get sticky because what if you were socialized improperly and now you socialize your children that way? Or if you socialize them for the norms of one culture or by one generation's standards, rather than the one they are actually living in. Let's tie these approaches to family communication to parenting styles. We'll start with positive parenting. Positive parenting is based on Alfred Adler's work of the early 1900s. Early 1900s, right? So we can't act like this is some kind of snowflake millennial approach to raising kids. Basically, it's about showing children love, warmth, and kindness. Super simple, right? It's about guiding children to act the way you want by encouraging and teaching them. Guiding them to succeed by consistently sending them messages that they are loved, they are good, and they matter. I think that a lot of parents truly start out with this approach. But then as kids get older and more challenging, many abandon it. And also there's a societal concept that once kids reach their tween and teen years, they're just gonna be a problem. And so we need to play preventative authoritarian to set the standard or to establish the boundaries, establish them earlier, get them in there better so that they know what they're supposed to do. But really, positive parenting has very clear boundaries and expectations. In fact, Adler himself advised parents to avoid spoiling or coddling their kids. He said that kids deserve to be treated with dignity and respect, which, if you consider the time that he was doing his work, the early 1900s, remember, that was definitely not the societal norm of this time. The overall mantra of this parenting style is to be both compassionate and firm. This approach to parenting is based on 3 different assumptions, and these are relevant whether you are the parent of a 4-year-old, a 12-year-old, or a 17-year-old. So the first assumption is that our kids' primary goal is to achieve belonging and significance. Beyond any basic needs that they have, like being fed, sheltered, and clothed, okay? Those are our most fundamental needs. Regardless of age, our basic needs beyond this are to belong and to feel significant. Our teens want to feel like they belong. They want to feel wanted by and connected to the important people in their lives. Our teens want to feel significant. They want to feel like they matter, like they are capable, like they are needed. They want to feel like they are making meaningful contributions to the family and that they have some power or some control over their world, just like we do. When we take away their feeling of control over their lives, rather than exerting their power in a positive way, they're going to exert it in a negative way. They're going to take back that power any way that they can. So they won't cooperate, or they'll talk back, or they'll break the rules. So the second assumption of positive parenting is that all behavior is goal-oriented. So if your teen refuses to do their homework or skips class, that behavior is totally not random. This type of acting out may feel like this is the problem I am dealing with here. But it's not the actual problem. There's a root cause of that problem. And until you figure that out, the behavior won't stop. I can't tell you what the root problem is, but I can tell you that there is one. If your teen suddenly doesn't want to go to school, the problem is not going. And by making them go, or even getting them to actually do their homework or whatever, is only putting a Band-Aid on the problem. Similarly, punishing them, well, it might get them to acquiesce and do it, but you still haven't even addressed why they did it in the first place. The third assumption is that a misbehaving kid is a discouraged kid. Okay, so not a bad kid, not an uncontrollable kid, not a mean kid, not a defiant kid. Bad or uncontrollable behavior, or being a mean or defiant kid, again, those are just the symptoms that we see. Underneath those symptoms are teens who are not feeling significant or not feeling like they belong. They are discouraged. Misbehaviors truly are a cry for your attention. If they get your attention for their misbehavior and are simply punished for it, but nothing else changes, guess what? They still are left with the root problem. They still feel like they don't belong, and they still feel insignificant. And now they know that if they misbehave, at least they will get your attention. Punishment or not, it's attention that they crave. The funny thing, of course, is that remember I said how parents often abandon positive parenting as their kids reach the teen years because they feel like they are being proactive. They are setting up boundaries and limitations to prevent their kids from misbehaving because, well, all teens misbehave. Well, in actuality, that's how positive parenting differs. Positive parenting is actually the proactive method. You are meeting your teen's needs and you are preventing them from misbehaving. Typically, we are being reactive. They talk back. What do we do? They cut class. How do we punish? They vape. How do we handle this? You're only treating the behavior. You're being reactive. You're not actually fixing anything. And it's only a matter of time before it manifests itself into something else. Okay, so what are some helpful tips and tricks for positive parenting of teens? Adler and his subsequent scholars actually put it into a lovely acronym for us. PRIDE: praise, reflection, imitation, description, and enjoyment. Lovely, right? Okay, so what that boils down to for us: praise them when they do good, when they get a good grade, or in a talkative mood, or they stock the fridge with drinks, or they help you carry things in, or they respond to your text messages without you needing the 4 follow-up texts to let them know that, hi, I'm still here. I'm still waiting for you to answer me. But whatever it is, big or small, praise them for it. Then reflection and description are really ways of showing them that you are paying attention to them. You notice them. You are engaged with them. You are the one being responsive to them. If they tell you about something that happened, listen. Repeat the things that they say. Show them that you are paying attention. If they tell you how they feel, don't try to fix it unless they ask. Instead, respond to them, that you hear them, and validate their fine line of beauty products. Try them. Whatever it is, imitation shows them that what they enjoy and do is important and is valid. And the last part is experience. And we just talked about that in the deception episode. And in the forced family fun, read that. Do things with them for fun and actually enjoy it. Do you see how so many of these things just come super organically when they're little, but slowly as they get older, we stop sitting on the floor and asking what they're playing. We stop reading books with them or repeating the stories that they tell you about school or about their friends, or enjoy taking them to the playground. Yes, as they become teens, the activities and the conversations will change, but those overall techniques, those shouldn't. Research does continue to support it. Positive parenting works. It sets kids up for success, helps them do better in school, helps them have fewer behavioral problems. It creates stronger mental health. And it's not just when they're young. Research shows that it actually helps the teenage brain, which we all know can use all the help it gets. Am I right? Neuroscientists discovered that positive parenting contributes to better functioning of the brain regions, the ones that are associated with their emotions and their cognition during these teen years. And long-term, the benefits continue well into adulthood, with studies showing better relationships, mental health, and well-being in their adult lives. And anecdotally, I will tell you, my kids are pretty darn great, so it has worked for me. Thank you so much for listening and for spending this time with me. Please reach out to me with any questions or issues or feedback at jen@reframing-me.com. Find me on socials, on Instagram and TikTok at Reframing Me. And on Facebook, it's Reframing Me, and join the Facebook group Reframing Me, the podcast community. Until next time, be well and communicate.